My name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. Alright, today we are reviewing an Atticus Icarus that was very generously lent into the channel by a friend. So, as I understand from the blog on the Atticus website, this brand was founded by the designer of some of the NTH watch cases. So, as always, we will be doing specifications, pros, cons, and then if I think this watch is worth the money. However, before we begin, if you are enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. So price and availability. As of this recording, this watch is actually sold out on the Atticus Watches website. However, the price of this watch is $550. I do imagine they'll be making more though, so keep an eye out. So starting with the case, it is 38 millimeters in diameter, 46 millimeters lug to lug, and only 11 millimeters thick. The lug width is 20 millimeters. For reference, this case diameter and lug-to-lug distance is the same as on the SARB 033, so it's a really great size, especially if you have a smaller wrist. The case is very flat, which usually makes a watch wear larger. However, in this case, the 46 millimeter lug-to-lug distance is very forgiving in that aspect. The lugs are drilled, which greatly assists in strap changes. The case is mostly brushed with a high polished bezel and chamfer down the transition from the top to the side of the case. The finishing is very good, and the brushing on the case is very consistent with the brushing on the bracelet, which is a detail that is sometimes missed. Sized up for my 6 3/4 inch wrist, it weighs in at 130 grams. The bracelet starts at 20 millimeters and tapers down to 16 millimeters. The end link has a super solid connection to the case of the watch with zero play. I'm actually not entirely sure what to call this bracelet, but it reminds me of an H-link. The links are completely brushed, which adds to the tool aesthetic of the watch. The bracelet fully articulates across the back of the watch, and the articulation between the links is also very good. This bracelet is extremely comfortable, especially with the very nice taper. Sizing is accomplished with normal split pins, and there are plenty of very small links to get just the right size. The only negative here is the choice of clasp. It is a clasp that is used by many microbands. It has full milled construction, a safety catch, and double push deployment, and features 6 micro positions. Usually I'm a huge fan of that many micro positions because it allows you to get a great fit on the bracelet. However, with so many small links, you really don't need that many micro positions, and for such an elegant bracelet, I feel this clasp is a bit large. I would have loved to see a smaller and slimmer clasp to complement the rest of this wonderful bracelet. The screw-in caseback helps provide 100 meters of water resistance and is fairly sterile with just some information printed around the edges. This watch is powered by the Miyota 9015. This is a movement I wish more microbrands would use, as I greatly prefer it to the NH35 we often see. This is a 28,800 vibration per hour, hacking, hand-winding movement with the 42-hour power reserve and a stated accuracy of -10 to +35 seconds per day. However, in my experience, these movements keep better time and have better positional accuracy than Seiko movements. The 7mm screw-down crown is signed and also loomed, which is a really fun detail. The loom isn't super strong, but you'll definitely notice it. While the crown is very sleek, I wish it was a tad bit wider to assist in operating the watch, especially when unthreading and rethreading the crown. The flat sapphire crystal is flush to the bezel and is treated with an air coating to help with legibility and reduce glare. I always like to see a sapphire crystal on watches because it greatly reduces the chance that you will scratch the crystal. The dial is almost perfect in its simplicity. A matte black dial with minimal distractions. There are long loom dashes for the hours and shorter ones for the individual minutes. The Atticus brand name is at 12 o'clock, and Icarus is written in powder blue, which is also loomed, and then automatic below that. The date is nicely located at 6 o'clock, which does not break up the symmetry of the dial. The only change I would make is to perhaps make a double index at 12 to help with orientation of the dial, especially if you're reading it in the dark. The sword style hour and minute hands are black near the hand stack, and then a stark white, which is also loomed for the remaining 3/4 of their length. The minute hand is plenty long and terminates near the very edge of the dial, which makes precise time telling very easy. The second hand is also black near the hand stack and a nice powder blue for the remaining 3/4 of its length. This complements the blue text on the dial and adds a subtle splash of color to the watch overall. Since the ends of all 3 of the hands are black, the hand stack disappears against the dial, which is a very cool effect and naturally draws the eye to the hands and indexes of the dial. The overall design of the dial and hands make the watch extremely legible. Most of the lume is BGW9, but I noticed Icarus and the second hands appear slightly greener in shade and are perhaps C3. The lume is very bright and responsive, and as you can see, keeps up with the Seiko here. And then popping it on the time grapher, we're getting a pretty good result here, 11 seconds a day gaining, strong amplitude, minimal beat error. And then I've had a few people request that I show multiple positions on the time grapher, so here it is in the crown up position, gaining about 6 seconds a day. And here is the watch on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. Again, that 38mm diameter and 46mm lug to lug is going to be a sweet spot for a large variety of wrist sizes, but it's going to wear extremely well and extremely comfortable if you have a smaller wrist like I do. So pros and cons, starting with the pros. This watch is extremely legible and has a straightforward, no-nonsense design. I love the use of the Miyota 9015, the sapphire crystal, and the inclusion of an excellent bracelet. The watch is extremely comfortable, which is greatly aided by the very slim 11mm thickness. As for the cons, I would like to have seen a smaller clasp. However, I'm thinking it's possible this clasp was chosen to counterbalance the weight of the head of the watch, and as such this is a minor nitpick. I would have also liked to see a slightly wider crown to make operating the watch a touch easier, and then probably a double index or maybe a thicker index at 12 o'clock to assist in telling the time, especially in low light conditions. So is this watch worth the money? Overall, this is a really comfortable and well-designed pilot-style watch that has a very high-quality feel to it. While I've never handled one, it has given me very strong Sin and Damasco vibes. At $550, it's occupying a fairly competitive space. This is a price point that I think is best represented by Steinhart. And I think if the Atticus had used an NH35 here, I would have questioned the overall value. However, with the use of the Miyota and all the features you would expect at this price point, I think it is worth the price of admission. So there you have it, the Atticus Icarus. Let me know what you guys think about this watch in the comments below. As always, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you have been watching Just Watches.